What's up, everyone? So we have had a ton of people commenting and asking what the setup on the Fairmont is. And I know it's been a while. We did a setup overview a while back, but some things have changed with this motor compared to the super budget 5.3 build I did when we were just planning on spraying the car. So I want to do a complete overview of the current setup as it sits, and then at the end of this video, we will go over the budget in my Excel spreadsheet and show you guys how it ended up.
So, starting at the back of the car, 8.8 with 410s in it, Viking Warrior shocks, TRZ anti-roll bar, which I think we're twisting, so I already have to upgrade that. The car is on compressed air that I picked up used, and then I did have to fabricate my own parachute mount here because I couldn't find a used or a bolt-on setup for the factory mounting, because I believe it's a little different than a Mustang. Next up would be a Power Glide transmission. Is right there, you can't really see it. Some used, pretty worn out Mickey Thompson ET Pros that are about gone, but if your suspension works, then you can still 115 60 foot with it. The super cheap subframe connectors we picked up for like $100. They're too short because this is a Fairmont and we've got them off of a Mustang. So I plated them to extend them back, and I really ought to box that in, but it is tied into the cage right there. I probably need to tie in something up front because I think the car's twisting pretty good. Going that 115. What else here? B&M shifter. That's a $24 compressed air cylinder off of Amazon that I have wired up to a button so I can throw the chute on a button. All it does is when I hit the button, it sends, my compressed air pressure through that MAC valve to that guy, and then deploys the parachute, so I don't have to do it with my hand. My hands can stay on the steering wheel. Obviously I have a race quip in here. You could put a Kirky in here. I had a $50 Kirky that I decided to resell, simply because I wanted to be safer, and I plan on making the car much, much faster than it currently is. So why do it twice? And then I had to make mounts for the race quip brackets to work with the on a Fox body. That controls all my lighting and stuff. Terminator X. Super budget screen right now. The dash is I don't remember. What is it? The dash is a Glass Tech, but I don't have that in the budget or nothing. That was a splurge that I just got installed so I can run some classes. All right, the meat and potatoes, what y'all want to see. Starting from the bottom of the engine, it's a Gen 4 5.3 LC9. We checked the gap on the rings, and they were all 28 to 30 thousandths, so we left them. I literally did not even gap the rings. We checked them. They were all 28 to 30, and we didn't touch them, and we slapped the car back together. Going up from there, we have the cam. It's a stage 4 turbo cam from Lunati or Edelbrock, something like that. There was a crazy good sale going on. Lunati or Edelbrock was blowing out all their leftover cams from Holly purchasing them or something. So I picked up this cam brand new for like $145, free shipping. So crazy good deal. I think we bought like 2 more. So I think we got a stage 2 on the shelf and a stage 3 on the shelf as well from that sale. Going up from there, what else we got? Used ARP head studs, MLS gaskets, I think they're either 5 or 7 layer. I don't even know if they're the LS9 good ones. I reused them off of a DoD delete motor that we had laying around. And a couple parts for this came off that. Factory rockers. I didn't even do the trunnion upgrade yet. So we're living life on the edge with the needle bearings right now. 7.4 push rods, 660 springs, ultra low ram with Bosch 210 injectors, cheap budget 92 millimeter throttle body, air motive regulator that a buddy wasn't using anymore and literally gave me with a box of hoses to use on this build. What else? I think those are $40 wires off of Amazon. BR7 EFs gapped to 17, I think 17 or 18 thousandths. Air to water intercooler. This definitely took a lot of the budget. If I had to do it again, I would just go air to air because this thing has been a problem from the beginning. This motor drank about 2 gallons of water, and I discovered that in a video, and you can see the blow-off valve spraying water out of it. And I believe that is why we had 4 bent rods and had to replace them with 4 straight rods. So yeah, this thing, I'm probably gonna be selling it, so hit me up if you're interested. We did fix it. The core was cracked. That's how it got water in it. On the bottom side, there's a patch where we cut the tank open, epoxied, and I mean, we did it right. This thing's seen over 30 pounds of boost. The core shut, and then welded the tank back up, and it seems to be holding really well. Big blow-off valve that's way too overkill. It came with this and the aluminum, then I just made it work. I am not an aluminum welder, so don't look too close. That is a 1966 Mustang radiator. I bought off eBay. It actually comes with the shroud and the fan. Obviously, you got to upgrade the fan. Those cheap eBay ones aren't good enough for street driving and stuff if you plan on doing that. But for like a race car or something like that, if you're not, cruising it on the street, it works great, and it's a fan. That's an Amazon $60 3-gallon fuel cell. Seems to be working pretty well. We did weld larger bungs in it because I went mechanical on this car. So I picked up a 6-gallon per minute Aeromotive mechanical. I think I paid like $650, $680. It's all in the budget. This turbo, this is a Force Performance HD 5594, I think is what they call it. It's like a 94 millimeter. And then the backside is a like 113, I think is what they consider it, with a 124 AR. They do not make this configuration anymore because it's a few years old. I bought it secondhand. It wasn't used, but I did buy it secondhand. I think I paid $700. So you could put a VS 85-102 or something along those lines. An 85-102 for $700 is what I had on my Camaro. And it made basically the same power we're making now. We're just in a much, much lighter chassis. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. As far as setup goes, front suspension, those are $50 strange struts, single adjustable. The one's bent. We kind of just made it work. And then you can do a chain limiter, or I paid like $100 for those Amazon limiters and welded them up. So you definitely need limiters. If you're gonna have a cheap front strut and try to go fast, you have to have a limiter. So whether that be chain, cable, or those slidey push pin type deals, they definitely make more expensive versions, and then you can also make your own cable from Menards. And then those are, 15-inch Jeg Stars? Yeah, I think they're 15-inch Jeg Stars. They don't quite have the right backspace or offset, so I'd like to lower the car more, but I can't due to the wheel being so far out. It really needs to have like a few inches of backspace to suck that wheel in, and then I could lower the car more, which of course I'd like to do. Lower the car the better. And then Willwood front brakes, I picked those up used off of a local guy when we found our SN95 calipers where, well, one was locked up. And rather than spending a couple $100 on a brand new factory caliper, I decided to just bite the bullet because I know this car is going to go faster on that. And I guess the same deal for the motor plate. You can make regular, stand engine stands if you wanted to off the K-member pretty easily with just some material. But I bought motor plates because, like I've said, I plan on making this car way faster. So yeah, that's the setup on the car. Let me know if you have any questions. I will go over the budget in the next segment of this video. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. I guess I'm going over my Excel spreadsheet now of the budget. If you made it this far in the video, I appreciate it, and make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps the YouTube algorithm when you hit that subscribe or the like button. So here we go. This is my budget turbo Force for 14 breakdown. I will leave a link in the description for this link so you can look at it as well. First item up, we have the actual car. So this is a 4-door Fairmont we bought out of Cincinnati, Ohio area. We actually drove it back home with the 4-cylinder, 3-cylinder, whatever it had in it, on brake clean. Go watch the video. It's absolutely a riot. Dad and I always wanted to do a little roadkill deal. And we finally did it. So, and you can see us working on it in the AutoZone parking lot, trying to get it going so we could drive it all the way home. And what was that? Cincinnati. So it's about 4 hours for a normal drive. I think it took us like 12, but we did make it. Spoiler alert. So yeah, we paid $1,500 for that, basically sight unseen. We took a rental car down there and then dropped the rental car off, and then we were literally stuck with only this vehicle. And it kind of forced us to figure it out. So we bought the car for $1,500, and then we sold the motor and trans for $200 because they were still good. We bought a Fox notch roller, a clean title Fox notch roller, for $1,750 a few hours south of here. And that had a boatload of parts in it. We took a lot of the parts out of it, and then we were able to resell the clean title roller because it didn't have rust. It was a clean car, for $1,500. So we have $250 in the cage, the anti-roll bar, the rear coilovers, upper control arms, the steering column, the steering wheel. I'm probably forgetting something else. The front K-member, the front lower control arms. So yeah, the coil over sliders for the front shocks, springs. We all got those off of this roller, this buying and selling, and this made the budget right here. Was finding this car for sure. So you just can't be afraid of doing some horse trading and buying and selling to get in a vehicle what you can. Here we got the LC9 long block. We paid $500 for that. Yeah, we've found there for a while, Dad and I had like 3 or 4 LC9s sitting in the shop. We've since sold most of them and just hung on to like one spare each, basically. But yeah, you can find them. You got to jump on them. They're pretty sought after, but we've found plenty for that or less. Lower control arms is just explaining that the ones that came with the car did not work for the rear end I bought, so I sold the brand new Team Z ones for $100, and then I picked up used Heim ends on both ends for $100, and got that to work. 660 springs used, 660 springs, $200. We did have to buy a ARP balancer bolt. That should be green, showing that it was new. $35. ARP head studs, used, secondhand, $200. ATI balancer with ATI hub. Yes, I know this is a deal because it has the hub, but I promise you, I paid $200 for it. Used milling oil pump, $80. They're like 130-ish new, if I remember right. $200 for a Holley Gen 3 harness. It did not come with a wideband, and it was the wrong harness and the wrong injector ends for us. So we paid $200 because it had those Denso ends that nobody wants, and obviously most people want Gen 3 now. So it was a Gen 4. I had to repin a couple things and extend the cam harness, and I had to order a new injector plug end. I think that was $65 or $85. It should be under here, and a wideband. It did not come with a wideband. I paid $400 for a secondhand used Terminator X. I paid $700 for the Force Performance HD 5594. It is a 124 AR. They don't make it anymore, or they don't sell this configuration anymore, I should say. It was secondhand, like sitting on a guy's shelf for literally years. Never used it though. So it was a new turbo. But it was secondhand. If you needed to buy a new turbo or wanted to try and do a very similar build to this, VS Racing also has a $700 turbo that I ran on my Camaro with pretty good luck. Obviously, this one would outperform that. It's also way more difficult to get the spool. But if you want like a good turbo, HPT turbo, they're actually local to us. They're 10 minutes down the road, which is super sweet. Dad and I are both switching to HPT turbos. I did have to place a new order to VS Racing for a matching wastegate. I had one wastegate that B More Fox hooked me up with a good deal on, that he had been sitting on the shelf for a couple years, and I wanted a matching wastegate, so I bought one from VS Racing there. Turbo drain, feed, what was that? The downpipe outlet. Yes, so I had to put a different outlet flange on the downpipe for the turbo kit I bought to fit this turbo. Oh, and there's the wastegate from B More and the expired belts and the throttle body. Yep. All of those were just sitting on his shelf, and I was like, "Hey man, you got anything?" And he's like, "Yep, I do." So I threw him a couple bucks shipping, and he sent them out to me. So thank you, B More. Shout out. Fuel cell. Okay, I had said in the video it was like $60. It was $80, and that's directly from Amazon, a 3-gallon. I did pay $680 shipped for an Airmotive 6-gallon per minute mechanical fuel pump. It came with the bracket, and then obviously I had to buy a $20 belt. There's the $80 correct injector harness. $50 used regulator, used fuel lines. A buddy actually gave me the regulator and fuel lines. Obviously, everybody doesn't have a buddy give them a regulator to use for a budget build, so I threw $50 in there. It's honestly just a cheap Airmotive regulator. It seems to be working good, and I was able to reuse most of his fuel lines. He was going methanol, so he upgraded them all. Homemade motor mounts. You could home make motor mounts for a few dollars in scrap material, just a plate and a 1 inch or 1.5 inch, cage, whatever, round stock metal. I can't use words right now, so I apologize. We went motor plate. I bought Team Z motor plates because I didn't want to have to redo this portion of the build down the road, because like I've said, I plan on making this car much faster, and there was a few things I did not want to have to do twice. If anybody has ever built a car and immediately had to turn around and redo stuff, you will understand. Throttle position sensor, IAC, CAN cable, and splitter. These all came from Amazon Special. SFI flex plate, I think it's a Jegs. No, I did get it used. Yes, that's right. I put a Jegs new one on my Camaro. I did find a secondhand SFI flex plate. I think they're 80 or 90 new, but I did find a used one. Terminator screen, I actually didn't pay for this. I just stole it from Dad. It was sitting on the shelf, but obviously I had to put a value on it. So $100, you can find them for $100 all day long on Marketplace or Facebook. $700 for a PTC stall converter. This is the better, like 9.5. It's not the budget one. We thought it could work with the car, but we did end up having to send it out to PTC, and they did restall it, and that's $350 to have them restall it for you. $200 for a B&M shifter with the electric solenoid. It came with the bracket. Obviously I had to make a mount, but it did come with the bracket. A bent Turbo 400 cross member from a buddy's wrecked car. It was all bent out of shape, and so we cut it in half and figured out how we could bolt it to the Power Glide, and then use some 1 inch or 1.25 inch from Rhodes to figure it out, weld it back up. Actually, I don't even know if I had to use new, or if we just kind of flipped it. I think we just flipped it and re-welded it, and it worked. Alright, here we have the $1,200 for the transmission. I literally had a Turbo 400 with the trans brake in the shop that I had bought, and last minute I decided that I just wanted to go Power Glide. I didn't want to fight the first gear ratio, which you can do. I've done it on my Camaro. So I just went ahead and did a Power Glide. But I had a $1,200 Turbo 400 with the trans brake literally sitting in the shop, and just decided to resell it and go Power Glide. And I also found a Power Glide for a stock case, but a SFI Bell Power Glide here local for $1,200. So they do take a little bit of time to find, but you can find them. Used Bosch 210s, I paid $200 here locally. I did buy an open box trans cooler. I believe that was on Amazon for $80. I had to buy a $30 4X cam gear. Bought that off Amazon. NOS relay for trans brake bump to work. I think that came from Summit, I'm sure. Caster camber plates are cheap max speeding rods off of Amazon. They seem to be working, doing their job. I've read guys have had good luck with them, but they kind of wear out fast. So that's the difference between a $60 set, and a $300, $400, $500 set, I guess. This is the 302-2 muscle car pan. It's a Holley pan knockoff, and these actually work incredibly well for the money. You just have to run an extra quart of oil, so it's a 6.5 or 7 quart oil pan. If you run 8 quarts to 8.5 quarts, you won't have any oil pressure drop, like an LS1 pan. And this pan is still currently on leftovers, and it went a 115 60 foot and did not lose oil pressure with 8 quarts or 8 and a quarter. I think I threw an extra quarter of a quart in there that last day at the track. I did have to buy an idler pulley and an ICT alternator relocation bracket, which should be on here somewhere. We'll find it. I'll add it if I missed it, now that I'm thinking of it. $660 shipped for a Holley low ram, 16 injector with the dual rails and the dummy injectors. So I feel like I did pretty good on that as well. There's definitely pros and cons to the 16 injector ultra low ram. Yeah, it's all right. It works. This is that Edelbrock Lunati Stage 4 turbo cam that I was talking about. They were having a clearance blowout sale, getting rid of old stock and like shutting down or just getting rid of all of them. And I found that sale, and I think Dad even bought a couple cams too that we have sitting on the shelf still. Oh, also, yeah, you don't have to have a Holley low ram. I wanted the intake to fit under the hood, so I didn't want to use a TBSS. Definitely could have used the TBSS though. There's a few things like the turbo cam. Had we gone with the stage 2 turbo cam, then we could have gone with a TBSS intake, and had we had a TBSS intake and a stage 2 turbo cam, then we probably could have gotten away without restalling the converter. And so it's just, this is all just setup dependent. I knew I wanted to rev the snot out of this thing and possibly go for a stock bottom end record down the road, and that's what it takes to keep them alive. So looking back now, there's definitely a few things I could do cheaper or differently to cut this budget down even further, or just further solidify the Force for 14. It's definitely doable, but I mean, guys, this took me a year almost now to build, and I was pretty neck deep in it. It takes some time. It doesn't happen overnight. And obviously my labor is free, kind of. Alternator resistor wire and a coolant overflow. I bought those off Amazon. They were $48. Kill switch, $15. Intake air temp sensor was $46. Racetronics order, miscellaneous fittings and fuel filter was $150. Used 4-bar map sensor, and I had found 2 leftover 100 psi pressure sensors off the shelf. The old map sensor, and then I valued the 100 psi pressure sensors right at $80. Additional fittings and oil feed, $100. Drive shaft lengthen. So because this is a Fairmont and not a Mustang, the drive shaft that I had needed lengthened. So that was an additional cost that you would not need if this was a Mustang. But I'm glad it's not a Mustang, even if it cost me a few bucks more. $1,600 for the 8.8 rear end. It's a used rear end. I drove like 3 or 4 hours one way to pick it up for $1,500 with the brakes on it. I finally got it in the car and rolled it over, and the gears were destroyed. The front pinion bearing was cooked. So I found a used set of gears for $50, and then pinion bearing probably another $30. Crush washer $10. So an additional $100 to fix the gears and the pinion bearing. So $1,600 in the 8.8 rear end. $100 battery. This is actually still the same battery that we drove it back from Cincinnati on. I'm pretty impressed that $100 AutoZone battery is still hanging in there. $24 for an air cylinder for the parachute handle. Definitely not a necessary thing there. I just wanted to be able to click a button and my parachute comes out, so it works pretty good for that. Radiator and fan for a 66 Mustang. I bought this off eBay for $125. I do think because of tariffs and stuff that they have gone up now, but that is what I paid. $100 miscellaneous wiring, cable ends, relays, just additional relays. Front runners with tires were $400. I think that was even shipped from Michigan. Rear wheels and tires. These are actually my old Camaro wheels that I had for my Camaro that I had sold. And I kept the wheels for the Fairmont, figuring I would be able to do something with them later. Thankfully, they worked out. I valued them at, a few $100, and then used tires. I paid $200 for those Mickey Thompson ET Street Pros that are they're about done. After I've made 6, 7, 8 passes on them. Oh, here we go. The ICT alternator bracket and idler pulley is 11. Oh, did I have that on there twice? Idler pulley 11 shows 80 plus 11. I think I did. Where is that? Idler pulley for ICT. Yeah, we don't need that. Used front bent single adjustable strain shocks and springs. Yes. So, the springs and the coilover piece came with that notch roller that we bought, but I did buy the struts, the single adjustable strain struts, here locally for $50, and the one is bent from the guy doing a wheelie. And very soon after we put them on the car, they both started leaking. So these struts they're done. They're tired, boss. Oh, you don't get to see that yet. Throttle cable off Amazon, $16. Homemade throttle cable bracket. I bent up an old aluminum bracket we had laying in our scrap bin. Plug wires, alternator pulley. Oh yeah, because I went to a bigger alternator pulley because of the RPM we were running. Plug wires. I had to buy a new TPS sensor, I believe is what this is. The first one broke or something. Throttle cable, exhaust gaskets. Oh, do I have throttle cable on here twice? I do. There, the budget's even getting better. My first time re-looking through all this, item by item. Switch panel for lighting and blinkers is that Mick Tuning one. It was like $110. I did not put a price here because 4s for $14 doesn't need to be a street car. So we saved on the budget a little bit for that. $30. Oh, quarter like push lock fittings and a little regulator for the compressor. Via air tank and compressor was $50. You see this here? Yes, there are 3 safety items. I'm pulling a Cletus, and I'm counting them separately because you could either not do them completely or do a much cheaper version of them. That kind of just depends on how safe or not safe you guys want to get with this, and I want to be as safe as I possibly can. And if that means a couple safety items push me over the budget, then so be it. At least I'm safe. At least, I mean, I still have the cage and everything else in here. It's literally those 3 items. Race Quip containment seat and brackets. Yes, so I did pick this Race Quip seat up secondhand for $350. I did have a Kirky laying in the shop that I had picked up for $50. I decided to just go ahead and resell that and use the containment seat. So it did come with the Race Quip brackets, but I had to extend them and modify them to use the to bolt to a Fox body. And the spring launcher parachute. I paid $600 for the spring launch parachute, and I paid $100 for the cable and the handle. So that was $700. I also had to make my own mount. I'm sure Mustang guys can find a bolt-on parachute, like pilot chute, cheaper than the $600. But we couldn't, and it's what I found. I like having the spring instead of just the pilot chute. It deploys a little faster, but obviously that added some expense. Drive shaft loop materials. I mean, technically that's kind of a safety item too, but I did include it in the budget. $50 for miscellaneous metal for the front end mounting, radiator, transcooler, fuel cell, air to water. That's for the mounting and the metal. Arc switch panel relay board. I valued this at $100. The guy was actually a fan of the channel and just wanted some merch, so I made him like $100 worth of merch and traded him that merch for the arc switch panel. And that's what I'm using to run, you know, the starter, the ignition, and the engine side of things. And the mic tuning I'm using for the just lighting, horn, that kind of thing. And that's running like the air to water pump, the fan, the ignition, the starter, the important motor stuff. I paid $250 for the Fox Body hot side truck manifold kit with the V-bands. It came with the hot side, the manifolds with the V-bands, and the downpipe from a guy here local. I did have to modify it to work with the Fairmont and put the turbo where I needed to make everything else work. So I had to move the turbo location over about a foot. Then I had to modify the downpipe. Catch can. I did. Yes, I definitely stole that from Dad too. He was planning on putting it on his Camaro, but it was a little too big. So he kept using what he currently had. It was sitting on the shelf. I don't remember what he paid for it on Amazon. I think it was like 40 or $50. So that's what I threw the value in there as. The silicone coupler I originally started using for the build wasn't a multiply silicone, so it was like blowing up like a balloon and hitting the water pump and wore a hole in it. So I had to buy a new 90-degree silicone coupler. Limiters, I bought the $115 max speeding rods off Amazon so I could go buy the dot, but I mean, you could literally make limiters from Home Depot for $20 if you wanted to. So I threw $50 in there just as a happy medium if you wanted to use some cables or chains, whatever you wanted to do. Serpentine belt, $20. Huge chunk of budget, $900 for the air to water intercooler setup. This did come with the aluminum for a cold side, the blow off valve, the lines, the pump, the tank, everything. I did have to modify and remake the aluminum to fit the car, obviously. If I had to do it all over again, this is definitely something I would change. The air to water cost me a ton of time and troubleshooting, and because it had a leak, which I think I went over previously in this other segment of the video. But if I had to do it again, I would definitely run a $300, $400 air to water that I could find used. Like you can find an On3 6-inch brand new. I think they're $500, and they'll support 1300 horsepower all day long. If I had to do it again, I'd run an air to air intercooler. Not to mention fighting ice is kind of a pain in the butt. So yeah, I would do an air to air if I had to do it again, and that would even save more off the top of the budget. Yeah, when we went to bleed brakes to get the car ready for KD, if you guys remember us thrashing to try and make KD, we had one of the SN95 GT calipers that we had gotten off that notch roller locked up, and we could not get it bled. And but a buddy of mine was selling used Willwoods for like $400, $450, and so I went and I bought those. You know, I figured they're a safety item. I'd rather not spend $200 on a factory Mustang caliper. I'll just go ahead and I'll buy the Willwoods now, and it is what it is. So that was the decision I made. Coming out to a whopping total of $14,709. So 14 XXX, I'd say we did 4s for 14. Budget of $14.99. $290 left to go 4s for 14. If you do add the safety items, totaling $1,510, we are $1,220 over budget if you want to include safety. Either way, I am freaking pumped how we did on this build. I see multiple places that we could have actually done a little better. Honestly, just starting with a notch instead of the Fairmont would have saved us a bunch of time and effort and money. And doing the air-to-air would have saved us time and money. Obviously, we could have done a Kirky here. We didn't have to do a parachute, and we didn't have to do aftermarket brakes. So we're right there, guys. Like, this is definitely doable. I hope, if anything, this inspires you to maybe take some time, start collecting some parts. It's doable. You got to watch these tiny things. They definitely add up over time. Like, I even looking back now, like, I'm surprised, like, all the small stuff adds up, and that's really what gets you in the end, is the tiny things. You know, you get your 3-4 big main items and you're like, oh, I'm set, but then all the little stuff starts adding up super bad. But yeah, I'm pumped. I'm excited. I went 4s on a budget, crazy tight budget. Like, we made stuff work. We fabricated our own things. We got it done. And now, you know, leftovers is kind of on to the next thing. I definitely plan on still keeping track of the budget. I want to know where we're at. I mean, just for my own peace of mind. And also, the car's named Leftovers. Like, I never want it to get so, you know, blown out of proportion where 90% of the car is brand new. Like, no, the car's named Leftovers as much as I ever possibly can. Like, I'm budget oriented. I don't have a bunch of money. This YouTube channel is lucky to make us like $100 a month. Like, if I can save money buying secondhand or used, I will pick that direction 99% of the time. So, and then just I pulled up this for January, the beginning of the year. I had done the inflation calculator for when Matt went 8s for 8, and that is equivalent to almost $10,100 in January of this year. So I think for being, you know, 3-4 grand over what Matt did 6 years ago, and we just cracked off a 496 and a 780. I'm ecstatic, guys. Yeah, if I'm always down for some competition or some feedback. If you guys think I did the 4s for 14, leave a comment, give me some encouragement. If you think I didn't, and this is BS, then let me know in the comments below, guys. I'm always open to feedback. I want to improve. I want you guys to enjoy, and here it is. I'll leave the link in the description. Thanks for watching. I got a lot longer winded than I planned to, so I apologize, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one.